Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. What you're about to hear isn't a story about heartbreak. It's a slow-motion collapse that happened under flickering lights, behind laughter I wasn't part of, and a text message that still haunts me. It started with a paper napkin, crushed on the floor beside a glowing champagne glass, trampled by expensive shoes, ignored, just like me. That napkin felt like a metaphor for the entire night. I stared at it longer than I'd looked at my wife the whole evening, mostly because she never gave me the chance. We were at her boss's celebration party, some rooftop event with neon lights, free cocktails, and a crowd that buzzed with fake laughter. The air smelled like expensive cologne and cold ambition. I shouldn't have come. I knew I shouldn't have come. The moment we stepped into the venue, I became part of the background. Lainey didn't even look back when she disappeared into a circle of coworkers. No hand squeeze. No be right back. Nothing. Just the swish of her dress and the echo of her laugh bouncing off walls I wasn't welcome near. I stood near the bar, pretending I belonged. I even ordered a drink I hated just to seem busy. Gin and tonic. It tasted like regret. Every now and then, I caught glimpses of her. Laughing, leaning in close, talking to her boss, Elliot. The guy who drives a matte black Tesla and says things like, "Let's circle back," without irony. The guy who once emailed her at 11:47 p.m. and she smiled reading it. I saw them dancing. Close. Too close. At one point, she walked right past me. Our eyes met. No, almost met. She looked through me, like I was someone who just happened to be standing in the wrong spot. I didn't make a scene. That's not me. I'm not the guy who throws a drink or shouts. I'm the guy who quietly excuses himself and hopes no one notices. And that's exactly what I did. I left. Walked out. No goodbye. No confrontation. Just out into the night where the air was colder and the silence was louder than the music behind me. I sat in my car for maybe 5 minutes, staring at the rooftop lights reflecting in my windshield like stars I couldn't reach. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Lainey. 2 words. Come back. No apology. No explanation. Just that. And I sat there asking myself the question that still burns. Why didn't she want me there, but suddenly needed me back? I stared at the screen, not blinking. Come back. Just that. No emoji, no punctuation, no follow-up. For a few seconds, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Sent to the wrong person. Or maybe there was more coming and she hit send too early. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. Just those 2 cold words, glowing on the screen like a half-open door. I didn't respond. I didn't drive off either. I just sat there, in the dim parking garage, engine off, seatbelt still on like I was waiting for the night to rewind. My hands were shaking, but not from anger. Confusion. Hurt. That kind of dull ache that spreads across your chest when the person you love treats you like a stranger. And then, suddenly, like you matter again. And you don't know which version is real. 10 minutes later, another message buzzed through. Please. Still no explanation. No, I'm sorry, or I miss you. Just please. That's when I made the mistake of going back. I walked into the party again, this time slower, almost hoping someone would notice me. They didn't. The music had picked up, the lighting dimmed even more, and people were deep into their 3rd or 4th drinks. I spotted Lainey immediately, by the bar, drink in hand, still in conversation with her boss. But this time she looked up and saw me. She smiled. A small one. Almost like I was her Uber Eats order finally arriving. There you are, she said, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear, voice casual. I was wondering where you went. Wondering? She knew exactly where I went. I left. I walked out. I disappeared, and she acted like I'd just stepped out to check a parking meter. Before I could even respond, Elliot, her boss, turned and gave me a smirk. Glad you made it back, man. Lainey was just telling us how funny you are. What? I hadn't spoken 2 words all night. And now suddenly I'm the highlight of her conversation? Lainey reached out, took my hand like it was a prop, and said, I was telling them about that story you always tell, about the guy with the raccoon in his attic. You know, the one that ended with you falling through the ceiling? She laughed. They laughed. I forced a smile. I've never told a raccoon story in my life. But I stood there, letting her pull me into the circle like some accessory. It was easier than asking questions. I nodded at jokes I didn't understand. I laughed too loud. I stood close beside her like everything was fine. But something was wrong. The way her boss looked at her. The way she looked away from me. The way her thumb kept nervously tapping her glass, even while she smiled. We left an hour later. She linked arms with me and said, "Thanks for coming back." It meant a lot. I wanted to ask, "Why did you text me?" I wanted to say, "You ignored me for hours. Why act like I matter now?" But I didn't. I just nodded, like I always do. What she didn't know was that I noticed the text she tried to hide. The one she accidentally opened in front of me in the car when checking something on her phone. It was from Elliot. Just one line. "Did he leave for good?" She'd replied, "I think so. So why call me back?" And what was I walking back into? The drive home was quiet, and not in the peaceful, shared silence kind of way. It was the kind of silence where every passing streetlight felt like a metronome for the growing discomfort between us. Lainey stared out the window, the side of her face lit in soft, orange flashes. She didn't say anything until we pulled into our driveway. Even then, it was only, "Thanks for coming tonight." Like I had just driven her home from a dentist appointment, not from a night where I'd been ghosted in a room full of strangers. We went inside. She kicked off her heels, tossed her clutch onto the table, and disappeared into the bathroom. I stood in the kitchen, still in my jacket, unsure whether I should pretend to be okay or finally ask the questions I kept swallowing. When she came back out, she was already unzipping her dress, halfway down the hall to the bedroom. "You coming?" she asked over her shoulder like nothing had happened. I followed her, but I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling while she dozed off beside me within minutes, like it had been just another ordinary night. Her breathing was calm. Her phone was on the nightstand. And for the first time in years, I did something I never imagined I would. I picked it up. Not to snoop. At least, that's what I told myself. I needed to know if I was imagining it all. The distance. The shift. That text from her boss. Maybe I had read it wrong. Maybe there was an explanation. There wasn't. I didn't even have to dig deep. She hadn't deleted the messages. They were right there under her recent chats. Elliot's name. No emojis, no disguise. Just open. Elliot. He looked pathetic standing there. Are you sure he's not suspicious? Lainey, he's clueless. He just thinks I'm stressed from work. Elliot. If he leaves tonight, we have options. Lainey, he won't. I'll handle it. My fingers went numb. I couldn't feel the phone anymore. My heartbeat felt like it was pulsing behind my eyes. I put the phone down gently, like I was afraid it might explode. Then I got up, walked quietly to the kitchen, and just stood there, gripping the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't want to. Because I couldn't. It felt like I'd stepped outside my own life and was watching it fall apart from behind a glass wall. Why call me back if she was hoping I'd leave? What was the plan if I hadn't come back? That single phrase echoed over and over in my mind. We have options. Options for what? To end it? To push me out gently? Or something worse? The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek and asked if I wanted pancakes. Pancakes, like betrayal, could be dusted with powdered sugar and served on a plate. I said yes, because I didn't know what else to do. But something inside me was shifting. I'd spent years thinking that silence kept things peaceful, that letting things slide meant being supportive, that love was supposed to hurt sometimes. But now I wasn't sure if I was being loyal or just being used. And what I found the next night in her purse made everything worse. Much worse. It was never about pancakes. It was about pretending things were normal. That Sunday morning, Lainey made them fluffy, golden, the way she used to when we were first married. She even poured my coffee and added that little cinnamon dust on top, like it was a peace offering. I smiled. I chewed. I thanked her. But inside, I was hollow. Because now I knew the truth, or at least part of it. That smile of hers. It wasn't kindness. It was control. She knew exactly how to keep me confused and quiet. After breakfast, she said she had to run out for a few errands. Target, then maybe a quick stop at the office, she mumbled as she dabbed her mouth with a napkin. I nodded. Of course. The office. Always the office. I watched her grab her purse, the same small leather bag she'd taken to the party. And something about it, maybe the way she clutched it tighter than usual, made my stomach twist. After she left, I didn't do anything dramatic. I didn't rage. I didn't call anyone. I just walked into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at my own reflection in the mirror. And then I got up, opened the drawer next to her side of the bed, and stared at the mess of old receipts, gum wrappers, and lip balms. I don't know what I was even looking for. Proof? A reason? Or maybe just something to tell me I wasn't going insane. That's when I remembered her backup purse. The one she used the night before the party, now hanging in the closet. She'd switched bags that evening, probably thinking I wouldn't notice. But I did. I pulled it down and started unzipping compartments. Most of it was what you'd expect. Makeup, phone charger, half a granola bar. But in the inner zipper pocket, I found something she hadn't meant for me to see. A hotel room keycard. The cheap kind. Plastic. No branding. Just a black magnetic strip and a room number scribbled in red marker on a torn sticky note. 412. I stared at it for a long time. Room 412. No date, no name. Just a number that now felt like a punch to the ribs. My hands were trembling again, not from rage, but from the sickening clarity sinking in. She had booked a room, or someone had booked it for her. While I was standing at the party, sipping a gin and tonic and trying not to exist too loudly, was she planning to sneak away? I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even breathe properly. I walked around the house like a ghost, staring at objects like they might speak up and tell me what was happening behind my back. That evening, she returned as if everything was fine. Said Target was insane, and the office was boring as hell. She didn't mention a hotel. She didn't mention room 412. Later, while she was in the shower, I placed the key card on the bathroom counter, right next to her hairbrush. I didn't say a word. I just left it there, went downstairs, and waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. When she finally came down, her face was pale. Her hair still wet. No makeup. Just raw nerves behind a forced smile. "What's this?" she asked, holding up the card like it was something she'd never seen. "You tell me." I don't know. Maybe it's old?" "You used a new bag at the party. It was inside it." She blinked, swallowed, then forced a laugh. "You think I went to a hotel? Really?" I didn't answer. She didn't either. Just walked past me, dropped the key in the trash, and said, "If you're going to start digging through my stuff like some paranoid teenager, we're going to have a problem." And there it was. She flipped it. I was the problem now. But what she didn't realize, what she still doesn't know, is that I took a photo of the key card before she got home. And I planned to find that hotel. Because if there was a room 412, then there was someone waiting inside it. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling with the image of that hotel key card burned into my vision. Room 412. No name, no hotel logo, just the number. My phone sat beside me, screen glowing as I scrolled through maps, comparing locations near where the party had been held. There were 3 hotels within walking distance. One of them, Kramer Suites, had a 4th floor and used identical plain white key cards like the one I found. I knew that because they had photos on their website. So I got dressed and went. I told Lainey I needed air, that I was going to grab coffee and clear my head. She didn't ask questions, just nodded, barely looking up from her laptop, like nothing in our world was cracking apart. I drove straight to Kramer Suites. The lobby was too quiet, too clean, the kind of sterile comfort that makes you uneasy. I didn't have a plan, just adrenaline and a screenshot of the keycard. I walked up to the front desk, hoping the clerk wouldn't look too closely at my shaking hands. "Hi," I said, voice as even as I could manage. "My friend left her charger in room 412 the other night. She told me to stop by and check with Lost and Found." The woman behind the counter barely looked at me. One moment. She tapped a few keys. Room 412 was booked 3 nights ago. Checked out the following morning. "Was the reservation under Elliot Burnham?" I asked before I could stop myself. She looked up, now suspicious. "I'm sorry, we can't share guest information." Of course. But it was enough. That hesitation, the flicker in her eyes. She knew the name. It was real. I left the hotel, heart pounding, hands cold. I didn't have hard proof. Not yet. But I knew now what I wasn't supposed to know. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't making things up. There was a room. There was a plan. And it involved Elliot. I spent the next few days moving through my life like a passenger. Lainey acted like nothing had changed. She kissed me before leaving for work. She cooked dinner one night. She even started playing soft music again in the evenings, something she hadn't done in months. It was almost comical, like she was rebooting our marriage from a script. Meanwhile, I couldn't focus on anything. Not work. Not food. Not sleep. All I saw was that room number, flashing behind my eyes like a warning. Then came the final straw. Thursday night. I got home early and saw her phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. She was upstairs. The screen lit up with a preview message, Elliot's name again. This time it read, "You still thinking about the other night?" That was it. I didn't open the phone. I didn't touch it. I just stood there, staring at those words, trying to breathe past the knot in my chest. There was no more doubt, no more giving her the benefit. It wasn't just an emotional affair. It wasn't just a flirty friendship. It was real, physical, active, and I was done pretending otherwise. That night, while she was brushing her teeth, I asked her flatly, "Did you sleep with him?" She froze, toothbrush halfway to her mouth. "What?" I said. I repeated, "Did you sleep with Elliot?" She laughed. She actually laughed. "You're being ridiculous," she said, mouth still foamy. But I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. Her face changed. She swallowed hard. "You're serious?" I didn't answer, just stared. She placed the toothbrush down slowly and leaned against the sink. "Where's this coming from?" "You know where." She exhaled sharply, then looked straight at me, and for the first time in years, her face was completely expressionless. "Fine," she said quietly. "Yes, once." I didn't say a word. She added, but it didn't mean anything. And that sentence, that one shattered everything. Because it wasn't just what she did. It was how easily she could throw it away with a few words, like it was no more serious than forgetting to take out the trash. But the part that destroyed me wasn't her confession. It was what she said next. "I thought you'd already left." I didn't yell. I didn't slam doors. I didn't even raise my voice. I just stood there in the bathroom doorway, watching the woman I thought I knew stand so casually after shattering the last piece of trust one had left. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just kept looking at me like I should understand. As if it was my fault for walking away from that party. As if I'd left her no choice but to sleep with her boss. I went downstairs and sat on the couch in the dark, my hands buried in my hair. Her voice echoed down a few minutes later. "Are you coming to bed?" Like we were just finishing a disagreement about groceries. I didn't answer. She didn't ask again. But I wasn't sitting there to sulk. I was thinking, replaying every strange moment over the last year. Every late night. Every time she took her phone into the bathroom. Every conversation she dodged. And slowly, something clicked, something I'd overlooked in my pain. There had been another name. Not just Elliot. Someone else she mentioned once or twice. Always in passing. "A few of us stayed late. Elliot and Jeremy," she said once. Ray was covering for Jeremy that day. Jeremy. Not a friend. Not someone she ever brought up outside of vague office references. But now that name burned in my brain. So I went back upstairs after I was sure she was asleep. Quietly. Carefully. Her purse was on the floor. I didn't touch her phone again. I didn't need to. I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed one name into the browser. Jeremy plus Kramer Sweets. The first thing that popped up wasn't LinkedIn or some company page. It was a photo. Jeremy Halton, general manager. Kramer Sweets. My heart stopped. The hotel where the keycard came from. Room 412. He wasn't just someone she knew from work. He was the connection. The reason the room was booked. The reason the front desk clerk hesitated when I mentioned Elliot. Because it was all tied together. Elliot may have been the one she slept with, but Jeremy had made it possible. Helped hide it. It wasn't a moment of passion like she claimed. It was planned. Planned down to the damn room number. That realization broke me in a different way. It wasn't just betrayal, it was coordination. A cover-up. Like I wasn't even a person to her anymore. Just an obstacle to manage. I went back downstairs and stared at the framed photo of our wedding day on the mantel. We looked so young. So stupid. I remember how hard I cried when she walked down the aisle. And now, I couldn't cry at all. Just this empty, metallic pressure behind my ribs like something inside me was trying to collapse inward. The next morning, I didn't speak to her. I made breakfast for myself. Packed a small overnight bag. When she came downstairs, she looked at the bag but didn't ask. She just said, "Going somewhere?" "Yeah," I replied. "Need a couple days. To think. To breathe." She gave a slight nod. "Just let me know if you need anything." That line. If you need anything. I almost laughed. As if she hadn't already taken everything from me and turned it into dust. But I didn't leave right away. I waited until she left for work. Then I did one last thing, something she never saw coming. I installed a hidden voice recorder in our bedroom. Not to trap her. Not to be cruel. But because I needed to know. I needed to stop living in half-truths, in assumptions, in fragments of text messages. I needed to hear how she really spoke when she thought I wasn't around. What she said on the phone. If she talked to Elliot. If she talked about me at all. I left. Drove to a small motel 2 towns over. Sat in silence. 3 days later, I came back. I retrieved the recorder. And what I heard changed everything again. Because it wasn't just Elliot she was talking to. It was someone else. And this time, she said my name. I don't think anything prepares you for hearing someone talk about you like you're disposable, especially when that someone is the person you built your entire world around. I sat in my car with the recorder in one hand, my thumb hovering over the play button for what felt like an hour. The sun was setting, casting orange light through the windshield, and I just sat there, knowing that once I pressed play, there was no one hearing it. No going back. The first few minutes were nothing. Rustling, a drawer opening, footsteps. Then her voice, clear and sharp. She was on the phone, laughing softly. "It's fine," she said. "He's gone again. Took his little duffel bag like he's punishing me or something." Silence. Then her voice again, this time lower, like she was pacing. "No, he doesn't suspect that part. He thinks it was just Elliot. I let him believe it. Better than the full story, right?" My heart sank. The full story? A male voice answered, muffled, but unmistakably real. "I just don't want him sniffing around too close. You said he was starting to look through your stuff?" "Yeah," she replied. "But it's okay. I handled it. He's predictable." Another pause. More silence. Then something that made my blood run cold. "I think I've earned this," she said. "All those years playing house while he worked from home in his pajamas. I held this marriage together. I deserve more than bedtime kisses and his sad little routine." I stopped the recording. My hands were trembling again. I deserved this. All the nights I held her when she cried about work. The weekends I canceled plans so she could catch up on hers. The years I stayed, even when it felt like I was being emotionally phased out, like some old software no one updated anymore. To her, that was weakness. Predictability. Something to be pitied. I sat in the car for another hour, listening to the rest of the recording. Details. More names. None of them familiar. Apparently, Elliot wasn't even the first. There had been someone else 6 months before, during a conference trip to San Diego. She said it casually, like reciting a grocery list. And through all of it, not once did she express guilt. She sounded free. Free from me. And yet, she still kept me around. For appearances? For comfort? Out of laziness? Or maybe because she knew I wouldn't leave. But that was the version of me she knew then. I wasn't that man anymore. The man sitting in that car wasn't the same one she laughed at behind closed doors. I'd spent years walking on eggshells, second-guessing my gut, giving her every excuse possible. I told myself love meant staying through the hard parts. But this wasn't hard. It was poison, slow and deliberate. And I had swallowed it for far too long. That night, I didn't go back home. I drove to my brother's place an hour away and asked to crash on his couch. He didn't ask why. He just tossed me a pillow and said, "You good?" I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. The next day, I began planning. Not revenge. Not some dramatic confrontation. Something better. Something that would leave her with nothing to spin. No lies to twist. Just the raw truth, laid bare. And when I handed her the envelope, quietly, calmly, in our own kitchen, her face finally cracked. Not because I was angry, but because I was finally done being predictable. It was early morning. The house was quiet, too quiet. Lainey sat at the kitchen table, scrolling her phone with that same glazed-over look she always had lately. I walked in, calm, collected, with an envelope in my hand. No anger. No shaking voice. No accusations. I just placed it on the table between her and her untouched coffee mug. "What's this?" she asked, still scrolling. "Everything," I said. She looked up then. Really looked. Her smile faltered. She slowly reached for the envelope, opened it, and pulled out the papers inside. Photos, a transcript of the recorded conversation, printed text messages, hotel check-in info, and a single handwritten letter from me. I watched her eyes move across each page. The color drained from her face. "Elwood," she whispered. "You went through my stuff?" "No," I said. "I went through the truth." She tried to spin it. She reached for justifications. "It was a mistake," she muttered. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was lonely. I didn't think you'd care." That was the moment I realized how far apart we'd grown. Not just emotionally, but morally. To her, betrayal was a misstep. To me, it was the final straw in a 1,000-paper-cut war she waged quietly, night after night, for years. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I simply said, "I've already filed. I'm moving out today. The lease is in my name. You'll have a few days to pack and find another place." She froze. "You're serious?" I nodded. for the first time in years. Her lip trembled like she wanted to cry, but no tears came. And I didn't stay to comfort her. I walked out, grabbed my bag, and left the house we built together, the house she turned into a stage, and me into an extra. But here's the part you might not expect. That day wasn't sad. It was freeing. I checked into a small studio rental. I turned off my phone. I went for a walk that lasted 3 hours and didn't care where I ended up. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I took a full breath without feeling like I had to apologize for existing. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting even. It was about choosing peace over pain. 3 months later, I started therapy. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. I even started writing again, something I'd shelved long ago to make room for her ambitions. And you know what? Life isn't perfect, but it's mine again. No more pretending. No more half-truths. Just honesty, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. Have you ever ignored a red flag you knew was there? Or been in a situation where someone gaslit you into silence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, especially the moment in this story that hit you hardest. And if this story meant something to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you next time.